Okay, so here we have a video from CBC regarding the tariffs going up to 35%. Stick through the video. I'm gonna have some outrageous claims about Mark Carney at the end of the video. If you don't want to watch CBC, you want to just see what I'm yapping about, feel free to skip it. But yeah, let's start with this one.
But we begin with the latest from the White House.
They have to pay a fair.
Sorry, one more thing. We obviously know CBC is very biased. Mark Carney full on offered them a bribe, 130 millions if he gets elected. Well, he got elected. So what I expect from this video is blaming President Trump for everything.
Right, it's all. It's very simple. We like Canada. I love Canada. I have so many friends in Canada, but they've been very poorly led. They've been very, very poorly led, and all we want is fairness for our country. That's all.
Right now, Trump is hiking the border and fentanyl-related tariffs on Canada to 35%. That is on the Canadian goods that do not comply with the CUSMA Free Trade Agreement. Here is one way to see it. If we think of trade with the U.S. as traffic at a border crossing going south, data from the Bank of Canada suggests that the new higher tariffs would apply to just one narrow lane. But there are damaging tariffs on key sectors, too, like the 50% tariffs on steel and aluminum. That is already in place. There's the 50%.
If you're Mark Carney, most of your money is coming from Alberta and BC. BC is obviously coal, and it's still making coal. So it's affecting business there. How do you let it go? Like, we have 50% for what? 2-3 months now? How do you still not have a deal? Like, even if it was 30%, which is still ridiculous, but at least something. But 50? Like, again, I'm gonna talk about it at the end.
Tariff on copper that also takes effect today, but that one is not across the board, and it lessens the impact for some Canadian producers. There is also the 25% hit on Canadian-made vehicles, but again, there's a patchwork of carve-outs for the auto sector for U.S.-sourced parts. Megan Fitzpatrick, she is leading our coverage this hour from Ottawa. Megan, bring us up to speed. Walk us through the state of play.
It's a bit tricky to know the state of play, Katie, because government officials were pretty quiet yesterday. Dominic LeBlanc, the minister responsible for these trade talks, was in Washington.
You know why they were quiet? Because Mark Carney was talking about how Canada recognized Palestine or Palestinian State. Again, I have nothing against Palestinians. I think in this conflict, both of them are wrong. One is bad, one is worse. I'm not going to say who's who, but one party does something crazy, one party did something crazy, right? Inhumane. But hey, instead of dealing with the trade war, you're going to talk about the war that doesn't... I'm sorry, it's not the main concern of Canadians. Really? Instead of dealing about, like, helping Canadians, you're gonna try to not only help someone else, but piss off the guy you're trying to make a trade deal with. Because we all know President Trump is pro-Israel, and he has a kind of a good reasons why he didn't recognize Palestinian State right now. Because Palestinian State right now is led by terrorist organizations. Until they clean that up, by you recognizing Palestinian State, you're pretty much recognizing terrorism, which is ridiculous. And again, unfortunately, Palestinians are just caught in the middle. And we have a good example with the European Union. Did they recognize Palestinian State before they signed a trade deal with the US or after? After. Why? Because they know what they're doing. They know it would piss off the US. So you're not gonna shit when you sleep, right? Just sign the freaking deal first, and then you can try something like this. And it's not the first time Mark Carney did something like that. Do you remember digital service tax? That was horrible fiasco. First, he's trying to take some money from US. One day later he's like, oh, okay, let's leave it as it is. And it's like, how weak you are. First, stupid move to begin with. Second, well, when you did the stupid move, try to use it to your advantage at least. No, he just folded like a house of cards.
Washington, but we didn't see him on camera at all. He didn't hold a news conference or anything, and we didn't hear from Prime Minister Mark Carney yesterday either, as the clock was ticking down and these talks were going on. But we do know it was a late night in the Prime Minister's office, because we did get a statement from Carney posted on social media a little bit after midnight, and he's saying that the government is disappointed by this action, but that's about as much as he said in terms of reaction. Okay, so here's part of what he said in that statement. While we continue to negotiate with the United States on our trading relationship, the Canadian government is laser focused on what we can control, building Canada strong.
How are you building Canada strong? You let President Trump go to European Union and sign 750 billion deal. Like, European Union will invest over $700 billion into US. What did we get? Who are your trading partners? Like, you had a great chance to make a good trade deal with European Union to at least supplement a little bit of the lost income with the trade deal in US. But guess what? European Union went with US. Why? I don't think it was only a preference. I think they don't want to deal with President Trump because they don't know what to expect. They would rather deal with someone who's gonna keep their word. Don't get me wrong, I don't think President Trump is a bad person, but yes, he can wake up one day and do something no one's gonna expect. With Mark Carney and Canadians, I think they're not gonna do anything like it. So for European Union, it would be definitely better to have a trade deal with Canada. But guess what? Mark Carney just flew for taxpayers' money financed trip just to see his old friends and didn't negotiate anything. But anyway, so wait, what were we talking about other than Mark Carney being not a good prime minister, if I put it lightly? President Trump. Oh yeah, sorry, my bad. Anyway, I reacted to the video regarding the trade talks between Canada and US, right? Apparently US is willing to sign the trade deal. The issue is that Canada wants some crazy things in that deal. Like, they literally want to renegotiate the whole CUSMA or something like that. Really? Like, they want to renegotiate the deal that's brand new. Well, not brand new. President Trump and Justin Trudeau signed it, right? But like, there's no need to renegotiate that deal right now. Like, you need to get rid of the tariffs. And the Canadian negotiation team just wants more and more. So it's not even US fault. It's what Canadians want. Well, not Canadians, what Mark Carney's government wants. It's ridiculous. Just get rid of the tariffs. Like, restart the economy. No one says that US still has to be our main trade partner, right? I mean, it makes the most sense. But if you don't want US to be the main trade partner, you had it's August, you've been in power since March. You had 5 months to make the deals to build Canada strong. You didn't make a single deal, or at least not a single deal that would be good for Canada. What are we talking about? Why is he still in power?
Canadians will be our own best customer, creating more well-paying careers at home as we strengthen and diversify our trading partnerships throughout the world. Carney.
That's all he does. Even the premier said it, that he has a good ideas, he knows how to talk, but he needs to show the results. He's not doing it. 5 months, we have nothing. 5 months, we're worse off than we were under Justin Trudeau. I never expected to say that. I never expected anyone being worse than Justin Trudeau, but here we go.
He's been saying in his reaction, Katie, that Canada is going to focus on what it can control. So breaking down those internal trade barriers, working on those nation-building projects that the premiers have been pitching. He notes that, as you were just saying, there is this carve-out for goods that are compliant with the CUSMA, or USMCA, as they call it, on the other side of the border. But he does note those high tariffs on those certain sectors, aluminum and steel, autos, softwood lumber. And he indicates in this statement that the government, he says, will act to protect jobs, invest in our competitiveness, buy Canadian, and diversify our export markets. Carney was recently in Hamilton, Ontario, which is known as Steel Town, a major steel industry there, and he did announce some support measures. So perhaps more to come in terms of specific support for sectors that are being impacted by these ongoing tariffs. And that is what is wanted.
Wait. What are the support measures? More money from taxpayers' pocket? But that's probably what it means, right? Just sign some freaking deal. Sign deal with China, some Asian countries, whatever. Just do something. It's 5 months when we're not doing anything.
By the business community, we're hearing they're anxious to know how the government is going to support the business community. Last night on our network, Dan Kelly from the Canadian Federation of Independent Business made it clear what his members are looking for Ottawa to do now that no deal was reached. Take a listen.
I'm not sure that the Pope himself could negotiate a trade deal with Donald Trump that would be suitable. But my advice to the federal government, in fact, I'm urging the federal government to release the tariff revenue that it has collected to support businesses, to support workers that are going to be affected by this. The uncertainty alone is deeply affecting them. They can't go any longer. The billions that have been collected in Canadian tariffs need to be released and put back in the economy if we want to keep some of these businesses going until such time as a deal can be made.
I disagree with that not even Pope would be able to make a deal with President Trump. I don't think President Trump is that hard to deal with. Just don't try to backstab him. Carney did that twice, or at least we know about 2 incidents when he tried to do it. Apparently during the G7 in Alberta, there was a deal on the table that fall through only because Canadian side wanted to renegotiate CUSMA. In our trade deal about the tariffs, they wanted to put it in that we're going to renegotiate CUSMA. You still want to tell me that it's President Trump's fault? It's ridiculous.
And he said he's been hearing from business owners that are now laying people off. But he said he agrees that Canada shouldn't sign a bad deal just to get a deal, but no deal is also bad. It's kind of a no-win situation. And really, that's what we've been hearing from Prime Minister Carney and from the premiers, too, who have backed the Prime Minister on this approach, that Canada is not going to sign a deal that is not in the best interests of Canadians. And we did not get a deal, Katie. So you kind of just have to read between the lines. It's hard to know exactly what was being negotiated, what was being offered, what was being rebuffed in terms of those offers. This is all happening behind closed doors. Hopefully we'll hear from the Prime Minister today in person and not by a statement or from Dominic LeBlanc, who we understand is still in Washington.
Well, my question is, does Mark Carney and the Liberal government and some of the premiers, do they know what's the best for Canadians? Like, look at last 10 years. Was last 10 years best for Canadians? No. Last 5 months? Best for Canadians? No. Whose fault was that? Was that President Trump or was that Canadian government? I'm pretty sure it was Canadian government. So again, like, I'm afraid that we're too far down in the shit, pardon my French, but I live in Canada, right? Like, there needs to be something very drastic to save Canadians. And I'm not even saying Canada, I'm saying Canadians, because we are all drowning in debt. Groceries are 2 times more expensive than a year ago or 2 years ago. And that was prior to tariffs. That was before President Trump was even in power. So the price of the groceries is not fault of President Trump. And now we get some income tax reliefs that is gonna give us $800 a year extra. Guess what? $800, that's like groceries for 2 weeks. How is that gonna save us? It's just ridiculous. I don't trust that government knows what's best for Canadians.
Or whether these are traditional trade negotiations. Some of our reporting, I understand that there has been sort of a back and forth where the Canadians would come to the table with some ideas. They'd bring a document, as we previously reported, with suggestions on which way things could go. And the Americans weren't necessarily reciprocating and coming to the table with serious sort of suggestions to match that, or what next steps they would do in terms of how they wanted to change the trajectory or get to a final deal. So we've got that aspect of things right now. We know that we're hoping to hear from officials in Washington, from the Canadians in Washington right now. But what are you watching for next?
Yeah, well, we'll be watching it before those conversations, and perhaps if that phone call will happen today between Prime Minister Carney and President Trump. Trump had indicated yesterday that he called. We can assume he was referring to Carney, though we don't know that for sure. So will there be any talks at that high level today or in the coming days is something we're watching for, of course. And in terms of more reaction and more pleas in terms of what people are looking for the federal government to do now. Ontario Premier Doug Ford, for example, he posted a statement on social media last night saying, here's what it says: Canada shouldn't settle for anything less than the right deal. Now is not the time to roll over. We need to stand our ground. The federal government needs to hit back with a 50% tariff on U.S. steel and aluminum. And that
I love seeing all of this. It reminds me COVID, when we were told by all of these celebrities and rich people, like, hey, what's your issue? Just stay home and that's it, right? Someone who doesn't know anything about the normal life. And this literally reminds me what was going on. Yes, don't settle for anything else than the right deal. Cool. Are you going to support people? Well, again, I mean, we're talking about the tariffs, but the tariffs is not our biggest issue. But apparently that's all the government cares about, because they're not dealing with our other issues like groceries affordability, housing affordability, crazy high taxes, right? All of this, they're not dealing with it. So the only thing we listen about is, again, President Trump and how he's killing us, which it's not him who's doing that. But again, right deal, come on. You have no negotiating power right now. President Trump made a great deals with European Union, he made some deal with China, he made deals all over the world. He does not need the Canada as much as you think he needs it. Like, we don't hold the cards. You're gonna settle for a good deal, maybe not the right deal for Canadians, but right now everything's better than 35% tariffs. And guess what? If you don't negotiate a better deal in a month or two, it's probably gonna be 50%. What's gonna happen then? Eventually, some of the provinces will leave and become 51st state of the Canada. Here we go. That's it. I said it. I really believe that's going to happen. I really believe that's actually President Trump's intention, to have Alberta, Sask, maybe BC as a 51st state. So now he's just going to try. Well, he's not really destroying Canada. Like, it's the Canadian government who's destroying Canada, right? These tariffs we didn't really feel them yet. Like the grocery prices we see right now, that's all coming from Canadian government. It's not tariffs yet.
There's something that Ford has called for repeatedly. He wants those steel tariffs in particular matched. The steel industry, as I was saying, is very important in Ontario. Not all premiers are on board with that approach, though. We heard that when they gathered for their annual summer meeting last week, because reciprocal tariffs impact Canadian businesses and Canadian consumers on this side of the border. So they were a little more hesitant in terms of calling on Ottawa to take that approach. So we're watching to see if Canada does impose any more reciprocal tariffs or if it'll just be status quo in terms of the ones we already have. In terms of more political...
So the reciprocal tariffs, only thing it does is that the groceries will become more expensive for Canadians because these tariffs will go against the US goods, right? What do you think the companies in the US will do? Are they just going to pay the tariffs and write off the losses? No, they're going to hike the price up and let the taxpayers pay for it. So reciprocal tariffs are essentially bad for Canadians. And if you do it, who knows how much is President Trump gonna hike the tariffs? Like, it's, I don't know. I think it's a bad move to do it again.
Reaction and what people are calling on Ottawa to do. The Conservative Party of Canada, its leader Pierre Poilievre, putting out a statement that says Conservatives continue to hold out hope for a deal to end all U.S. tariffs on Canada. That means zero tariffs on our steel, aluminum, softwood, autos, energy, agriculture, and everything else. And Poilievre saying in his statement that Canada needs to break its economic dependence on the United States, and is calling on Ottawa to repeal what he calls anti-development laws and to cut taxes and a number of other measures as well. So today, tracking more reaction, Katie, and again, looking for more details from the government on specifics in terms of where talks are at. Carney obviously indicating in his statement that they're ongoing. They have not broken off, but where do things go now? Yeah, is one of the questions we'll be looking to get some answers to.
All right,
Okay, so Pierre Poilievre, what he's talking about, the anti-development law or bill, it's Bill C-69, which pretty much prevents us from building more pipelines. It prevents us from opening more mines, because right now to open a mine, to get all of the permits, it takes 10 to 15 years to open the mine, which is ridiculous. And my question, and it actually nicely leads to what I was hinting at the beginning. We know Mark Carney has a lot of conflict of interest. Yes, he moved his assets to the blind trust, but they found out that he has over hundreds of conflict of interest. So that means he can't really decide in more than hundreds of cases, pretty much. Otherwise, it would be conflict of interest, right? In Brookfield, he was a chairman or vice chair, and he was wait, let me see if I still have it here. No, I don't have it here. Well, specifically, he was one of the, I don't want to say general manager, but his department was environment. That's why he's pushing the net zero in Canada. That's why he still stands behind Bill C-69, because there's some benefit for him, right? Whether you want to hear it or no, he must be getting some money from his decisions, right? Why would you want to eliminate all of the fossil fueled cars by 2035, even though you know that there's no infrastructure to do it? Then he's still striving for net zero. And if you compare it to his assets in Brookfield, my question is it beneficial for him that we have tariffs right now? Because look, he moved the headquarters of Brookfield from Toronto to US, to New York, once he found out that President Trump will be the next American president, right? So I'm really doubting him right now if there is some secret benefit that we don't know about that he has from these 35% tariffs? Because explain that to me. How is he in power for 5 months and he didn't make a single deal? He didn't do anything that would be good for Canadians. Honestly, everything he's done so far to me looks like he's acting in his own best interest. I'm gonna go even further. We know he had a triple citizenship. He claims that he revoked it, but he never showed the real certificate that right now he's just Canadian citizen. Another thing, during the elections when he refused to disclaim all of his assets, why? I don't know, all of this connected together to me feels like he's still acting in his own best interest, maybe borderline treason. Like if he's damaging Canada in favor of US or his businesses in the US, isn't that treason? I know it sounds like tinfoil hat theory, and again, it's just my opinion, my idea, so don't take it too seriously. But hey, something stinks here. Something's definitely going on, and I don't know what to think anymore. 35% tariffs. Why? Because someone's incompetent to be a prime minister, and even though he's not negotiating himself, which I think we're in very dire situation, so he should step up. But even though he's not negotiating himself, he chose the people on the negotiating team, so it's still his responsibility. Anyway, if you like the video, just like it, give me some comments with feedback. If you want to see more, sub. And yeah, let's just pray for a better future. But again, I think Canada's cooked. Like there needs to be something big happening to save Canadians. Not Canada, but Canadians.